Peter Kay is one of the most universally loved comedians the UK has ever produced. His mastery of observational humour that was wrapped in comforting nostalgia and northern charm led him to uncharted levels of success, at one point selling millions of tickets and even becoming a world record holder for the most tickets ever sold for a comedy tour, despite his audience being mainly British. However, at the peak of his powers, Peter disappeared from the limelight basically overnight, returning only recently, and when he did finally make his comeback, something felt off, both in terms of performances and looking physically unrecognisable. So how did one of Britain's most iconic comedians come back from the shadows and be met with an uncomfortable truth that even legends can lose their spark? But first, if you didn't know, I make weekly documentary videos here on this channel, and I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel so we can keep this YouTube dream alive. But if YouTube wasn't enough, my videos are now also available on Spotify, so if you can't get enough of me, you can now watch and listen to all of my videos on the go. So make sure to check that out as well. Anyway, back to the video. On the 2nd of July 1973, Peter was born in Farnworth in Bolton, to his father Michael, who was an engineer, and his mother Deirdre, who was an Irish Catholic. During his childhood, Peter was very much brought up in his mother's faith, attending church and the Mount St. Joseph School, where he left with a GCSE in art. After leaving school, Peter began a degree in drama, theatre studies and English lit at the University of Liverpool. However, Peter only managed to get into uni because he misinformed them, telling them that he had 4 GCSEs and A-levels in psychology and English. This slight bit of misinformation led him to struggle with the course and transfer to a higher national diploma in media performance at the University of Salford, where he graduated in 1995. It was around this time where he also had an endless carousel of jobs, from working in a toilet paper factory, warehouse worker and a petrol station attendant. These odd jobs and late shifts gave Peter a superpower, the ability to watch people. Although it seems easy enough, Peter picked up on weird obscurities on many things people recognised but could never articulate. His first performance was originally at a friend's wedding, where he did a speech that went down incredibly well and led people telling him that he should have a go at comedy.
Peter finds, enjoyment making the children laugh in class and all that, but I was never really into doing it on television or doing stand-up, And then I was best man at a wedding, and I got up and made a speech, and my friends just said, you should have a go at this,
However, it wasn't until 1996 where Peter would start performing these observations at the iconic Frog and Bucket Comedy Club in Manchester. A year later, he won Northwest Comedian of the Year, beating Johnny Vegas.
Why don't you enter the Northwest Comedian of the Year? Because if you want an open mic spot, you'd be working, 7 months. So I thought, well,
is that long in Manchester? There's that many comics about?
Well, that's what he said to me. Anyway, I entered the Northwest Comedian of the Year, and I did the first heat, and I was scared. I caught a number 22 bus over to wherever it is, Charlton, and we got off, and they were a bit intimidating, really, because I'd never done it before. They were all like, oh, how long you been doing this, son? I'm like, first time, really. I don't think you should be here. And I said, well then, I'll have a go. So I didn't, and I won. So the final was really my second ever stage performance, and it's been that since, really.
Despite winning Northwest Comedian of the Year, Peter continued to work as an usher at his local cinema in Bolton. However, that same year, he was presented with an ultimatum after the cinema closed: find another job or move full-time into comedy. With only one real choice, 24-year-old Peter entered and won Channel 4's So You Think You're Funny contest in 1997, and then received a Perrier Award nomination for his show at Edinburgh Fringe Festival in 1998. It was also around this time where Peter got his first TV appearances, appearing in a series of sketches and performing stand-up for The Last Late Show, Roy Mills Films of Fun and Comedy Nation. During a series of experimental comedy shows on Channel 4, Peter's show, The Services, also won a Royal Television Award for Best Newcomer, and would serve as a pilot for his own show the following year, That Peter Kay Thing. The doors were beginning to rapidly open for Peter, but most importantly, it wasn't forced. Pete wasn't some industry-manufactured personality, he was the people's comedian, a normal lad from Bolton carving himself out of everyday life. Tragically though, just as Peter's career was taking off, his dad suddenly passed away at the age of 59 due to complications with alcoholism, which ultimately led Peter to become teetotal.
What happened was I started doing it and I realised I could get on stage and I was nervous, but I didn't need a drink. And then once you've kind of got over that hurdle, you think, well, if I can do this without drinking, plus I can go home and I don't have to waste half my money on a B&B. It's great, so that's how I started doing it, and I just used to drive back from gigs and...
But straight out the gates in January 2000, That Peter Kay Thing aired, which was essentially a mockumentary series that followed a number of characters played by Peter and other actors like Paddy McGuinness. Each episode followed a different character with a different job, such as Ice Cream Man Robert Edge and a working man's club social secretary Brian Potter. The show received extremely positive reviews and would even become a breeding ground for a spin-off series that would take the working man's club concept into a full-fledged series. Riding off the wave of That Peter Kay Thing, Pete didn't really achieve real mainstream success until November of that year, when he would release his very first stand-up special, Live at the Top of the Tower. The special captured everything that made Pete feel so different from other comedians at the time. Not edgy, not political, and not trying to be cool. Just relatable observational humour that was incredibly relatable to every British household. Everything from reminiscing about school days and joking about Brits abroad, Peter's observations made his Top of the Tower special become a national sensation almost overnight and shot to the top of the VHS and DVD charts and introduced him as the next great British comedian. The following year in 2001, Peter once again teamed up with fellow comedians Dave Spikey and Neil Fitzmaurice to write and produce Phoenix Nights. This was the series that was ultimately bred out of That Peter Kay Thing and was set in the fictional Phoenix Club in Bolton. The series was basically a love letter to working class Britain. It portrayed karaoke nights, charity events, amateur talent shows, and unforgettable characters. Bouncers Max and Paddy, Jerry the Entertainer, and Brian Potter all became memes in their own right, thanks to iconic one-liners.
You what?
We're short.
No, you're not. Get that fucking cooker on.
Now, I'm getting the word nonce.
But Phoenix Nights also highlighted something deeper about Kay's comedy. He wasn't just a stand-up, he was a world builder, crafting environments and scenarios that were so recognisable that viewers almost felt like they could walk through the club doors and smell the stale beer. Yet despite its huge popularity in the UK and coming out during the explosion of British sitcoms, Phoenix Nights never broke out internationally in the same way something like The Office did. The humour was just too British and too culturally specific. It isn't nightclubs, it's working men's clubs, which are typically British institutions, often linked to trade unions. It's not a concept that can be neatly packaged up and transported. British clubland has a unique background and its own quirky culture, which the show beautifully captures. An office with a knobhead boss and people awkwardly coexisting is universal. Following a successful 2 seasons of Phoenix Nights, Peter returned to stand-up with 2 career-defining specials back-to-back in 2003 and 2004. One recorded in a theatre in his hometown of Bolton, and one live at Manchester Arena. This second special really solidified to people that Peter wasn't just a talented comedian, but rather a once-in-a-generation phenomenon. People were travelling across the country to watch a man talk about his mum's shopping list, misheard song lyrics, and garlic bread. The level of popularity behind Peter had literally never been seen before. Merchandise sold out, DVDs became Christmas essentials, and the phrase garlic bread became a cultural reference point. It's also important to remember that this was all during a time when Netflix specials and social media didn't exist, and it was literally unheard of for a British comedian to sell out a single arena, let alone multiple. By the mid-2000s, Peter Kay was everywhere. Every household had at least one of his DVDs, his sitcom reruns filled TV schedules, and became so popular that even his charity work became national moments. Most notably in 2005, when he appeared in a music video for Tony Christie's Is This the Way to Amarillo, re-release for Comic Relief. The video at the time was everywhere, and now sits at 20 million views on YouTube alone. However, looking back on the inclusion of Jimmy Savile does remind you how much the BBC needs to be defunded. Despite this, the momentum didn't stop for Peter, as in 2007 he performed in 120 shows for the Mel Brooks musical The Producers at Manchester Theatre, and released a charity single and a few other projects under the character of Geraldine McQueen, a transgender dinner lady from Ireland who then won fictional talent show Britain's Got the Pop Factor. This character that couldn't even be made in this current climate won Peter a second Royal Television Award. However, the crazy thing about all of Peter's success was that no one really knew much about him. He was notoriously private and rarely gave interviews, which subsequently created a bit of an aura around the bloke. In November 2009, after a 7-year absence from the mic, Peter announced his return to stand-up comedy with 4 dates at Manchester Arena for the following April, titled The Tour That Doesn't Tour. However, this was later extended to 20 nights due to the insanely high demand, making it get essentially a residency. Originally, Peter restricted this set of shows to Manchester because he wanted to be close to his family. However, due to the demand for tickets still causing pandemonium, Kay announced and renamed the tour to the Tour That Doesn't Tour, now on tour, selling tickets for arenas across the UK. Between April 2010 and October 2011, Pete did 122 shows and sold over 1.2 million tickets, making it the highest selling stand-up comedy tour of all time. Some of Peter's records for the tour include the longest individual run at Manchester Arena, performing 20 nights and 40 shows, the first ever comedian to play 15 sold-out nights at the O2 in London, the only British artist to ever play 20 consecutive nights at an arena and sold over 1 million tickets. For a normal bloke from Bolton, that ain't bad. But Peter had reached a pinnacle that very few entertainers ever touch. And once you're at the top, unfortunately, there's only one direction left to go. For the next 5 years, Peter took time to focus on his family and only re-emerged into public for his new sitcom, Peter Kay's Car Share, and a few very rare appearances on TV shows. Other than that, the only time he returned to the stage was for the We Are Manchester benefit concert following the terrorist attack in May 2017. However, in November of that year, Peter announced his intention to return to stand-up comedy with his first tour in 8 years.
I'm very good. I'm going back on tour. I'm doing a stand-up tour.
This announcement once again caused ticket sales to surge, with some estimating the entire tour to make Peter around £40 million. Despite this, on the 13th of December, Peter released a statement saying that he was cancelling all of his shows. Due to unforeseen family circumstances, I deeply regret that I'm having to cancel all of my upcoming work projects. This unfortunately includes my upcoming stand-up tour, Dance for Life shows, and any outstanding life work commitments. My sincerest apologies. This decision has not been taken lightly, and I'm sure you'll understand my family must always come first. I've always endeavoured to protect my family's privacy from the media. I hope that the media and the public will continue to respect our privacy at this time. Once again, I'm very sorry. So with Peter once again returning to the shadows, he wasn't seen in public for close to 5 years. However, on the 6th of November 2022, via an advert during I'm a Celebrity Get Me Out of Here, Peter announced his return to stand-up after 12 years, with a tour beginning in December 2022.
Hey, look, it's Peter Kay. Hey, garlic bread!
Hey, it's the future, lads.
Hey, when you back on tour?
Next month.
When can I get me tickets?
They go on sale on Saturday.
Did you get your mum that bungalow?
Yeah, she wants a new carpet now.
As you can imagine, the demand to see the bloke from Bolton perform again for the first time in a decade was insane. The Ticketmaster website crashed and had hundreds of thousands of people in queues. But like anything these days, resellers saw an opportunity to hike up the price of tickets, with some listing on eBay as much as £1,600. However, due to the insane demand, Peter would later go on to add dates for 2023, 2024 and 2025. But to combat greedy scalpers, a price freeze was put in place to 2010 levels, making prices a very reasonable £35 to £40. While this is fantastic and should be implemented across all live events, for some, paying any more than £40 to see this version of Peter Kay would be outrageous. When Pete did eventually return in December 2022, he was met with an extremely warm return. However, as the tour progressed throughout the years, and people other than his die-hard fans saw the show, reviews began to skew into the negatives, reporting that Pete's act felt like recycled material, padding large sections with sing-alongs and audience participation, and just flat out doing bits from years ago. I've always totally loved Peter Kay, but now I'm actually annoyed with him. The show was dragged out, nothing new, and too reliant on audience stuff. Plus, why not have another very funny comic and then an interval as well? The reason I'm annoyed is we spent a lot of money on this, and I genuinely got bored. He doesn't need the money, so why rip off so many people? If you're going to charge the earth, and he must be raking it in, at least provide a decent show. This was so poor, it's a cash grab. Peter isn't the same, something just isn't right. The material was rehashed, and it was about 5 minutes of decent new stuff. Really disappointing, left before the end. I feel like that part of my comedy nostalgia with Peter is gone. He's not funny anymore, sadly. A lot of people left early. Even his old material wasn't delivered well, and went down badly. Lack of spark, lots of negative comments and energy, not the funny kind. Came close to trying to get get a refund, but decided to put it behind us. Sad times. You see, in the 5 years that Peter Kay left comedy, the world shifted dramatically. And I mean this from every single aspect. You don't need me to tell you. A pandemic, a cost of living crisis, social media, phone addiction, etc, etc. And at the same time, so did the world of comedy. Netflix globalized the idea of having an annual special, and younger comics built their fan bases on TikTok and YouTube rather than DVDs and appearances on mainstream TV. And not only that, the concepts of nostalgia Peter would so often use in his work just aren't nostalgia for people anymore, unless you're over the age of like 60. In the 2000s, Pete's humour worked because everyone shared the same reference points: VHS tapes, school assemblies, working in men's clubs, and British TV monoculture. But the cultural homogenisation of British culture has been cracked and split in 50 different directions and experiences, or just flat out don't exist anymore. So it's hard for most people to grab onto these things that he's talking about, when in reality, it's all kind of outdated. In February 2025, during one of Peter's Manchester shows, he hit headlines after he chucked out multiple people out of his show.
Oh, Uncle, he's up there, I think. Where is it? Hey, it's you, monkeys, there! Now then, now what we're going to do with you now? Look at this, lad, you've had too much. Jump! Go on, jump! Go on, just jump, see if you bounce. Come on, jump. Please! The lovely people in that area, would you like to raise your hands if them gentlemen in them two boxes are you off? Well, I think we need a security team to go up there and deal with it. Is somebody going, Andrew? Okay. Right, I'll carry on. But if you're rambunctious, you're going home early, you naughty boys.
The following days after being ejected from Peter's show, the man was interviewed by outlets, with him stating, "If we had done anything wrong, the police would have arrested us. I just can't understand it. All I said was garlic bread. That's my favourite joke of his. I have loved Peter Kay forever." The father and son weren't the only ones to get kicked out of the show either. A woman apparently shouted, "We love you, Peter Kay," which led him to refer to her as an alcoholic Emmerdale character, and got security to chuck her out.
Mean to cause any harm, I was just showing my love because he kicked someone out, so I was like, oh, I'll stand up and say, "We love you, Peter," but he obviously didn't like it.
After the news broke that Peter had chucked people out of his show, comedians both backed Peter and poked fun at him. The Peter Kay throwing a heckler out of his show thing: you cannot go to a comedy night and just shout shit out. You'll ruin the show. If you're too stupid to understand that, don't go.
I quite like that. I like it when people join in. I mean, you know, sometimes, you know, it gets out of hand and we have to kick people out of the show. But I'm not like Peter Kay. I don't care. Fair enough.
A few days later, Peter released a statement. The show on Saturday night in Manchester had two hecklers shouting from the start. They wouldn't stop. I tried to deal with them, I tried to ignore them. Eventually, I asked the audience around them if they're being disruptive, and they all shouted yes. I also asked for a show of hands, so I was left with no choice. The lady who was ejected did look remarkably like Lisa Riley. I don't know how that is an insult. I performed 114 shows on this tour, and they were the only second or third people I've ever had to get ejected. There comes a point with dealing with repeated hecklers simply isn't enough. It's not something you ever want to do, but there comes a point where it really isn't fair for the people around them. On the 27th of November 2025, Peter went on This Morning, where he announced his new book and 12 additional comedy days, with all profits being donated to cancer charities.
Everyone knows someone who's been affected by those cancers on that list. I hope you can come to the show. Even if you don't like me, just come for a night out and support the charities. If it's not funny, you get a full refund. And I'm joking. And I just stopped. So that's what's happening.
However, this appearance left some people to question what happened to Peter, as he looked completely different. Surely I'm not the only one who didn't recognise him. He looked simultaneously older and younger. Despite this reported and very obvious weight loss, it apparently wasn't because of anything sinister, but due to wanting to get to a healthier weight for his age and undergoing surgery for kidney stones. Around this time, during promotion for the new shows, Peter also revealed that he rejected a deal with Netflix to license Phat Phoenix Nights. Despite getting sent an air fryer to sweeten the deal, Pete basically said that Netflix wanted to add a warning at the start of each episode to inform the viewer that it was made from a different time, because some things may cause offense. But Peter felt like that was a bit unnecessary and chose to decline. Between 2022 and the end of 2026, Peter would have performed over 200 days, which is honestly insane, considering he was at his peak 20 years ago and is basically unknown outside of the UK. Even famous American comedians have no idea who Peter is.
Peter Kay is probably the biggest selling comic in the UK. People
No
don't
shit.
know him. Yeah, he's doing like an arena tour where he does an arena every Friday, Saturday, Sunday night for 3 years.
Homie.
That's
3
just what
years?
Yeah, 3 years. 15,000 seater twice a week for 3
Peter-
years. Peter Kay.
Oh,
People don't know him
look him
outside.
up.
And he's northern.
Can you look it up?
But then you watch Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And everyone's got a fucking northern accent.
Yeah.
And then you watch Lord of the
Yeah,
Rings. Everyone's
what
got a
the
northern
fuck?
accent.
This
or
is
West Country.
Peter Kay?
This is
This
Peter
guy?
Kay, yeah. All right, Peter. He's a very nice guy. He's a
Jesus
sweetheart.
Christ.
He's the biggest comic in the UK by some margin, I would say, ticket sales wise.
Financially, Peter is in a very select few of comedians that can sell out arenas. His fan base remains massive and his imprint will always be remembered. But is he relevant in this current climate? Not so much. Comedy rewards risk, and when nostalgia gets repeated without evolution, it eventually becomes self-parody. Anyway, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching this video, it really does mean a lot to me. If you want to listen to me on the go, all of my videos are now up on Spotify, so make sure to follow me over there, along with my Instagram at PhatMemer. And while you're here, like this video, subscribe, and comment below what you want to see next. As always, I'll see you in the next one.